And I did make my donation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We've got a slightly larger crowd than I expected with the golf tournament going on today. Tom DeWitt, would you lead us in our invocation, please?
Yeah, if I knew how to.
I think it's on already. Just
Hello? Oh. Pray with me, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we pause on this beautiful spring morning or afternoon to be reminded of all the many blessings you bestowed on us, both individually and collectively, not the least of which is the love that we share through our service in Rotary. We ask that you bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies and us to your service in this your city of Tyler. We ask that you give wisdom to our national leaders, patience and understanding to those seeking to find peaceful solutions around the world, and that you protect those that protect us, both home and abroad. We ask all these things each in our own way. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, sing when we see by the dawn's early eyes, what so proudly we hail, and the twilight's last gleam, peaceful stripes and bright stars, through the perilous times, o'er the land of free bars, where so gallantly stream. And the rocket's red glare of those bursting iron gave through the dark night that our flag was still there. Oh, Satan's hands were still better and way. For the land of free and the home of glory.
Thank you. Please be seated. Johnny Ortiz, would you introduce our guests, please?
Absolutely. We're going to start off with our visiting Rotarians, and right here with me, this young man right here is Mr. Danny Carpenter, visiting us with the Tyler Sunrise. Thank you for being with us. And then over here, we have with Dr. Ray McDonald, his daughter, who's visiting us from the Rotary of Marshall, Miss Ray CL. Is that correct? Thank you for being with us. And then second time visitor, where did she go? Where did she go? Oh, she's right here. Back here. We have Miss Cheryl Wolf, second time visitor. So thank you for coming. And then right over here with Miss Whitney Patterson, we've got Miss Bailey Crawford. Thank you for being with us. And like I told you, this is our second time here. What do you like better than first time visitor is? Second time visitors. Only thing better than second time visitors?
Remember.
Third time visitors. After that, we should expect you part of the club. And then Jennifer Hines is with our speaker that's going to be this evening. Thank you for being with us here today. And that wraps it up.
All right, is Bill Cummings here? Okay, we don't have a sports moment. So I told Johnny don't go anywhere. I told Johnny I was going to turn the tables on him today. And he comes up here and he does the member spotlights on all of our members, and we decided that he hasn't had a spotlight on him. So I'm going to turn the tables and ask a little bit about him. So tell us about your family, Johnny.
So I am married to an amazing woman. Been married to her going on 25 years. Actually, in 2 years will be 25 years. We're going on 24. So she puts up with a lot. She happens to be a phenomenal massage therapist, which is, you would think that would be an advantage to me, but it's not. Just like what you do for a living, you don't want to go home and do. 3 children. My oldest is 21. Graduated TJC. My boy is 19. I know I don't look anywhere near, the math doesn't add up. And then the Lord thought it funny to add a third one there at the end, so she's a little bit of an age gap. She's 12. She's the one that really runs the shows.
So the organization, what type of work do you do?
So I am in mortgage lending. So for those of you that know that are in real estate, you know what's going on right now with the real estate. We are doing a lot on our end as far as lending is concerned. I had actually gotten into finance a while back, and my background is in the auto dealership finance. I jokingly say that I was the guy that a lot of times the person you bought your car from had to go back and talk to the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. That was me. Nancy knows.
You know none of us like that person, right?
No, after about the second time, I would come out and say, "Let's make it really easy for them." And if you know me, I like to make it fun. So, and then I got into banking, and then that led me to mortgages.
What about recreation? What are your hobbies?
I do a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks. I'm just kidding. I'm in church. I'm in church hardcore. I do a lot of, I like to read. I like to read books that help you. I'm really big on personal growth and development. Back when I was 19, because I got into sales, I really started to learn more about how to grow myself personally, professionally, and then that led over into spiritually. So.
Wonderful. And what motivates you?
I really just like becoming the better possible version of myself. And then I just learned it this way that a rising tide raises all ships. So if you can have a good attitude, and if you can, no matter what you do, help your neighbor. One of my favorite books says that you love your neighbor. And so you want to be able to help them out as well. And so if you can help them be the best possible version of themselves, while you're working on the best possible version of yourself, then together that creates a little bit of a synergy, and 2 + 2 no longer equals 4, but it starts to multiply and bleed over into the community benefits because of it.
Well, he didn't mention it, but one of the things that I personally know that Johnny is involved in is Toastmasters. And he recently won a district conference speaking competition, so you're going to be moving on to the next level?
To the next level. I've never been there. As a matter of fact, I've never been to the one where I'm at now, but the neat thing about Toastmasters is that it really focuses and helps you to find your voice. And a lot of times people think that you got to have a little bit of confidence and a little bit of courage in your future self to be able to speak with eloquence and with some kind of authoritative. No, really what you need is confidence and courage in your past, knowing that your past has gotten you to where you are now, that you can always reach back and help somebody else find their voice.
And then the last question, why Rotary?
Brett Hall. Brett Hall. I did a Brett Hall back in 2003. I was mid-20s, trying to get into the automobile industry. Nobody would hire me at the time because I didn't have automobile experience. But Brett Hall found out I was bilingual. I don't know what tipped him off, but he hired me in. He goes, "Look, I don't care if you don't know how to sell. I need a bilingual person who can help us out." And then the rest is history. But when he invited me to Rotary, I said, "Let's give it a shot." I started doing some research on Rotary, found out what they were, and it perfectly aligned with what I like to do, and it's give back to the people that have helped me. And so I really love a lot of our service events, a lot of the community things that we do throughout the Tyler community, whether it's the park pickup or just going out and volunteering and helping others.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
And for those of you, if you've never had the opportunity to have the spotlight done on you, please feel free to seek out Johnny at one of our upcoming meetings, and he will be more than glad to put you through the ringer like I just did with him. It wasn't too difficult. A couple of quick things while I'm making some announcements. If Beth can come forward. Dalton, Tom, are you speaking today?
What?
Are you planning on speaking today? No, never mind.
But I would. Does he ever not speak?
Come on up, Tom. Okay, so if we want to talk about some birthdays, we actually have somebody in the room who has birthday today. Dr. Ray McDonald in the back of the room. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday! We have a decent amount of May birthdays, and the next one coming up, who's here, is Dalton. But it's the end of the month, so we can celebrate him in a little while. Anniversaries, we have some significant anniversaries going on this month. Tom Steele in the back of the room, this is his 42nd year of being in Rotary. Congratulations. He's not with us at the meeting today, but Carrie Bird is 24 years. John McDougall is 17 years. John Gentry, 9 years. So congratulations to them for their longevity within Rotary. So I'm going to turn it over real quick to Dalton to talk about a couple of things.
Okay, we have 2 events coming up. The first one is our paint day. So we're going to be working with Pat this weekend, and we're going to be doing some painting, getting a house ready for a family that Pat is helping out. So I'll be passing around a sign-up sheet. This is the same one that went around last week. So you don't have to sign up twice, but do please put your phone number down, because I'll have to call you this week with details on where to go. But be sure to wear, if you're going to come, be sure to wear clothes that can get stained, because we're using oil-based paint. That probably won't come out of your clothes. So wear something that can get dirty, get ready to have fun. We might even have donuts. Who knows? But we will have donuts. And then on May 25th, we have a blood drive coming up. 24th. It's going to be a Monday. It'll be right after that week. So be ready to donate some blood too and save some lives. They're in desperate need of blood real.
How much did we get last time?
We had a record.
It was like
That we
22, I think. Was it 22
It was-
donations?
over 20.
Yeah, it was
What's our
over.
goal this time?
What'd you say?
What's our goal this time?
I don't know what the goal this time. Last time the goal was 10 successful, 10 to 15 successful, and we were able to go over 20. So we were fantastic.
All right, 20.
25.
25. All
25
right.
is the goal. 25 is the goal.
Donald's been thrown
Nate,
down.
Nate plans to be there. Me and Randy does too. So we need 23 more. So
I'll do it.
and Diane will do it. So you can register online if you've done it before. Part of like here. But we'll have a sign-up sheet going around too as well. So, thank you guys.
Two quick things. May the 22nd. Has anybody in the room ever been up to the Rowdy Creek Ranch up around Gilmer? It's a pretty fun party place. And they have invited all District 5830 Rotarians to come up there for a wine and beer and recreation celebrating the fact that we can celebrate again. The other thing, and so anybody who's interested in that, see me. The other thing is we've had 27 of our members make a donation to the foundation during the match campaign. That still goes on through May. And once again, this is the way to advance your Paul Harris account at half price is what it really amounts to, because it's $1 for an extra point for every dollar that you contribute. So a Paul Harris fellowship is $500. Okay? Spaghetti lady.
I get to talk about two things today, spaghetti being one of them. I do want to say I appreciate y'all so much. We're really seeing some contributions come in. It's going to allow us to continue to serve our community in a great big way. Emails will be going out this week with assignments for day of. If you don't like your assignment, just email me back and we'll put you in a different spot. If we do have some open spots, then Jen will be sending out the volunteer email to register there. So we're just 17 days away, so we're getting really close, and hopefully we start getting some responses from a lot of the grants applications that Steve Warlander submitted on behalf of the club. So just keep talking to people about spaghetti and seeing if we can get other people's money, and let's make this super, super successful and a great event. So this weekend, a number of us went to Longview for our District 5830 training. It was well attended. It was great to actually have an in-person training again, and not a virtual or not a Zoom, to actually see people and talk to people and touch people, which was fabulous. But all I want to share from that is one of our members, Lee Montgomery, as past district governor, did a fabulous breakout session called Hook, Line, and Sinker. He was even in costume in his fishing gear. But basically, his point was, this year, President-elect Shekhar Mehta, his kind of his theme is each one bring one. So he's asking us as Rotarians to look at the people in our community, look at the people we serve with in church or other nonprofits, look at your neighbors, people that have a heart for service, and invite them. Bring them with you to Rotary, and let's see if we can continue to grow our club and grow Rotary's presence in the community with people just like you. The point of Lee's talk was the hook, line, and sinker. He was making an illustration about you want to catch largemouth bass. Where do you go in East Texas to get largemouth bass? Lake Fork. You know what kind of bait to use. You know what time of day to go. You think those things out when you're going to go and try to get some largemouth bass. Same thing, as we're fishing for fellow Rotarians, let's fish in the right place and make sure we're being mindful as we're volunteering and out in the community, and all it takes is an invitation. If you don't want to buy their lunch, I'll buy their lunch. But let's start looking around and seeing who we can invite and who we can bring to be part of Rotary. So,
Thank you, Beth. I think we've covered almost, let's see, we do have a couple of new member postings. Ashley Bullen, who's the regional director for American Health Services, she's not here today. It's her second posting. She's not here because she's at the David Lake or the Kyle Lake Memorial Golf Tournament today. She's helping coordinate that, and she's sponsored by David Lake. And Cheryl Wolf, who's sitting in the back right there, she has applied for membership, so today is her first posting. So welcome, Cheryl. And John, you came in just a little bit late, but I was recognizing members with longevity within our club, and as of May, you have 17 years in Rotary, so congratulations. All right, are there any announcements from the floor before we turn the program over to John?
Short meeting of the foundation board.
John Hart would like a short meeting of the foundation board, which is myself, John, Steve Norlander, Nancy Crawford, Jeff Johnson, who's not here. I think that's all of the votes, 5 minutes. So please don't leave. Tyler?
I just got back from our trip to Costa Rica. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Welcome back, Tyler. All right, well, I would like to thank Art Holland for his wonderful job lining up our speakers for the last month. I think for the most part, every single speaker was different for us. We did not have them before, and it was a variety of topics. Art wraps up his month of lining up speakers today with our speaker, Dr. Marty Crawford. So, Art, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our speaker.
All right. Our speaker today is Dr. Marty Crawford, Superintendent of Tyler Independent School District. One thing about being the leader of an organization, especially a large organization like TISD, is there's always something coming down the pipe. Always something. Like last week, being the MC of the big, let me get this straight, big Educator of the Year banquet. That was last week. Big deal. That was a big deal. And then now here we are, Rotary on Monday. In addition, he has responsibility for 18,000 students, 1,200 teachers, 2,400 staff members, and over $200 million of revenue annually. And he's been doing this since 2014. Amazing. He is degreed from Baylor, University of Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. His job as superintendent is super important because it affects everybody living in Tyler, Texas. And that means virtually everybody in this room today, right now. So, let's welcome up Dr. Marty Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Appreciate that. Y'all mind if I move this
Yep, that's fine.
stand down the way real quick? Honor the flag. Very good, thank you. There's some legends in this room today. And I'm honored to be with, a lot of y'all know. Nancy Crawford's in the back. I see Howard Van Patterson. The mayor, Mr. Mayor. We see each other enough as it is. Claude Henry, he holds my mortgage, so he's a legend. But you didn't know that you had a legend in here from Upshur County. And John Hart was an incredible speech and debate student at Gilmer High School, and also an outstanding football player who had to overcome the poor coaching that he received at Gilmer High School by the name of Coach Marvin Crawford. You may recognize the last name. My daddy was Coach Hart's coach, and I was your debate teacher too. Man, you had to overcome a lot of coaching there. But the state competitor right here, John Hart. So it's kind of neat to be able to run into some of my old East Texas friends, as I've circulated back here. A lot of y'all know that I grew up in Lindale and Carthage. Then left East Texas as a high schooler to the Metroplex. Y'all heard some of my resume as far as my post-secondary education, but it took me 30 years to get back to East Texas, and we just love it. My family just absolutely loves it. We've been here for 7 years now, which is a couple of, or 3 years past the shelf life of what a superintendent normally stays somewhere. But certainly here in Tyler, Texas, y'all kind of cycle through superintendents pretty quickly. So, as Ron Vickery, former board member, told me, we'll know by 3 years if you're any good. If you're gone in 3 years, that means you did such a good job, somebody came and got you. If you're still here in 3 years, after 3 years, you're not very good. So I've doubled that and some, and so I don't know what that says about me, Nancy. You're back there laughing. But we sure do certainly love Tyler and appreciate the support y'all have given us. Within the Tyler ISD boundaries, we have about 125,000 constituents made up of taxpayers and parents and students. So that boundary is just not Tyler, Texas. It does include Swan, it includes the old Dixie community, Noonday, Flint, Gresham, you name it. All those smaller communities that were absorbed by Greater Tyler over the last century or so. We serve that community. Our boundaries are East Loop for the most part. We butt up against Chapel Hill and White House to the south, Boulder to the far south. To the west, the Nature's River, Brownsboro, and then up towards Swan, where we actually butt up against Lindale, a little bit up towards Van, I guess Lindale, all Lindale, and then a little bit over towards Bladewater ISD, Winona ISD. It's on our far northeast. It's kind of crazy. But we are the largest school system in East Texas. The largest school system, if you think about it, between a radius of Shreveport, Forney, all the way up to Oklahoma City and Tulsa, maybe over to Little Rock. You just keep bearing with me on the geography here, to the north part of Houston, even all the way over, I guess, down to Austin and back up towards Forney. So we are certainly proud to be the largest school system in the East Texas Republic, here in the capital of the East Texas Republic, and try to do things the right way in regard to that. Thank you to the community for your support this year. It's been a crazy year to operate as a school system, and we've kind of been a little bit contrarian here. By my accounts, by Jennifer's accounts, we think we are the largest school system in Texas to have, from day one, opened our doors for in-school learning. Like I said, we're not the largest school system, but as far as if you wanted to come to school day one, you had that ability. We certainly did have some at school or at home learners as well. We went from 65% at school, 35% at home at the beginning of school to about 75%, 25% in October. And then by the time we said that's not good enough for everybody, 95%, 5%. At school, and then those that chose to stay at home. Right now, we're currently at 1.5% of our student population at home learners, and those are mostly medically attested. And so we understand that there are some situations with this virus that we've been having to contend with over the last 14 plus months, that there are some needs at home from family members, etc., and even the children that maybe could not have afforded to become sick, as we know that this illness could make. And certainly we want to make sure we were cognizant of that. Our district has had a pretty successful run this year in regard to our safety and our protocols, what we call our return to learn plan. We've never had a 1% COVID illness rate across the district among 20,000 plus Smith counties. And so you start thinking about the students that we're responsible for and the staff that we're responsible for. We've never hit that 1% mark, not even close. The last 8 weeks of numbers have us averaging about 4.25 COVID cases amongst those 20,000 plus people. And so right now we're at a 0.0175 of 1% illness rate right now. I think we turned in 3 last week, and we've been averaging about 4 weeks. We had the highest spike we had in the last 8 weeks is 10 one week. And so it's been really an incredible thing. There's a lot of factors that go into that. We know that they're not testing as much as they were. I think they're sending a lot of people home with just COVID symptoms as opposed to actually giving them a test. We also know that vaccinations amongst the adults are prevalent now. Choose to get that, that's great. Choose to not get it, that's great too. That's kind of the way we've set things up in our school system as far as our staff goes. But we've given them plenty of opportunity and communications with Net Health, Christus, and UT Health to be able to get them to get their vaccinations. Our data shows that it looks like around 65 to 75% of our staff will by next year have received the vaccination. That's they either have gotten it already or they're interested in getting it. There's going to be another quarter or so that either choose to not get it or cannot do it under the advice from their doctors. And we're completely okay with it. We're not going to sit here and shame anybody out of vaccinations. We just wanted to make sure we have the data so that we can safely operate schools. Which is kind of, one of the things that's kind of a hot topic now since those COVID numbers are starting to decrease in the community, not just in the community, but in schools as well, is what do we intend to do with masks? Because we were also a vanguard in regard to our protocols. We took emotions out of it. We took politics out of it. And we said, what do we have to do to get our teachers to come to work? Because we can't have in-person school without the people that operate those schools, and that's our teachers. And one of the things that our teachers and our principals did say is we need all of our kids to actually have a mask when they come to school. And y'all have been supportive of that, parents have been supportive of that, and our students have been somewhat. Some of them down here. But in saying that, the reason that we had those protocols in place were to get the teachers to come to school. If we didn't have our teachers come to school, there weren't going to be enough substitute teachers. Therefore, we couldn't have had in-person school. So I appreciate reasonable people of Smith County to understand why we had those protocols in place. I do think in the near future, like before the end of school, I think our school board will address some of those protocols, including the mask wearing for all of our kids to make it optional. I cannot guarantee that because it does take a board vote, according to the governor now, which the governor was kind of hands-off. Texas Education Agency was hands-off when we designed our return to learn plan and said it's just up to the local school system. Our board didn't care about putting their hand up in the air one way or the other. It said, you're the chief executive officer, do your job and keep our kids safe and open our schools up. And so we did it. We've been rolling along with our return to learn plan, and then the governor takes the mask order off and then actually says that to take masks off of kids, it's got to go in front of the school board. So we're kind of at that point now to where they're going to have discussions in regard to seeing what they need to do for the end of school, through summer school, and then what's going to happen next year. We have had an outstanding year, other than just saying we've kept our schools open, we've kept our kids and our staff healthy. We've actually had school this year. That school right across the street down here has had an outstanding year in regard to extracurricular activities. They've won 9 district championships in 6A. We compete in a district with Rockwall and 6A schools in the Metroplex. We don't play East Texas schools at Legacy. They've had an outstanding year, win those 9 district championships, team district championships. I think every team will make the playoffs this year. It's not all about athletics. Marching band had sweepstakes rating again for like the 30th year in a row. And they did it by wearing their blue jeans and t-shirts, which is, that's if you're a band parent or you participate in band. We didn't do that this year because of all the transactions we would have had to do with our uniforms in regard to COVID. So their actual show was actually so phenomenal. They showed in jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt. They still got that sweepstakes rating and advanced to regional marching contests. The Legacy academic competition team, they compete in like number sense and ready riding and things like that. They're a little bit more advanced than that. They actually won the district championship this year again against our Rockwall school district that usually competes very well in regard to that. So they've had a great year. Tyler High, on the other hand, too, has also had a great year. The boys tennis team won the district tennis meet, the tennis tournament this year. Our girls got second up there as well. Claude Lane started off his his first year as high school principal at Tyler High. He's been there as our long time Moore Middle School principal, and he's had an outstanding year up there as well. A little bit of tragedy this weekend. They did lose a student in a car accident Friday night, I think, probably during all the rain that was happening. And I know a former student is actually still in the hospital. So going to be kind of tough the last couple of weeks of school here as we rally up to graduations. And we do have end of the year activities scheduled. We have both proms are actually going to occur. And of course, with the crazy situations that we've had this year in regard to having in-person school, the noise that's around us from nationally, and even some of our peers in the state, to be able to give a kid the experience of that last experience of prom, and then having our graduations at Christmas Tree Mother Francis Rose Stadium is just going to be a grand celebration. We're really excited about that, along with our summer learning opportunities. Mentoring Alliance summer camp. Y'all know we do Rose City summer camps here in the summers to help our kids get through the summer. It's a partnership we have with Mentoring Alliance. They kind of run some of the faith-based stuff, and we run the academic stuff. We're ready to serve about 1,000 kids this summer. In regard to that, last year, I think during the COVID summer, I think we only served about 350 to 400. So we're looking for that to really kick up. Construction updates. Man, I'm ready to get this mess over with. 4 years ago, 4 years ago, we were in this room and presented our plan for these two projects. And, it was 2017. We passed that bond with y'all's help, 83% to 17, and certainly I think things are working out well. We're ready to cut the ribbons this coming August. Got a lot of work still left, but I think we're able to finish it. And on time and then budget, so we're excited about that. That's coming in the Smith County Wage. Y'all have Tim Loper, who's a attendant lead, graduated from John Tyler on the facility side, managing your tax dollars there. And then Tasha York, our outstanding CFO of 20 plus years, who's proven to do this. We are certainly excited that that's wrapping up. You can see all the athletics facilities that need to be finished up here. There's a little bit of work that still needs to be done in regard to the theater at Legacy. And then at Tyler High, the core of the building, if you went to Tyler High, if you went to John Tyler, the core of the building is being remodeled. It looks like a completely different place. I always liked it before we started the renovations to an Irish pub. It was dark, it was dingy. There was no natural lighting that would come through, so that thing's really been opened up. We can't wait to have y'all into that facility to be able to see the transformation that's occurred over there as well. And then yes, contrary to some of the Facebook Freddies and Facebook Fridas, we do have a kitchen at Tyler High that will be a huge industrial kitchen to be able to serve hot meals every day at Tyler High. We do not leave anything out of our projects. You know, Tyler has done a great job in the last 15 years of providing equity in facilities all over town. All over town. Woods looks like Orr, looks like Douglas, looks like Jack. There's not going to be anything different than this. Everything's been programmed with equity and equality, and it's going to be incredible to see both of our high schools, the capstone experience for our kids, to have those great facilities. So regardless of what you hear on Facebook, we have done an outstanding job, and y'all let us do that, because there's a lot of noise out there. I tell you what, let me give a disclaimer. By the way, we don't run our school system off of Facebook. If you need to talk to someone about something, call the superintendent. I will talk to you about it, get you in touch with the appropriate person, the subject matter expert, to get your question answered. You will not get a response from me on Facebook. I mean, it's the devil. And we didn't learn our lesson in November. It is the devil. So anyways, August ribbon cutting. There is a legislative session that's going on right now, in case you didn't know. Last time we were the darlings under the legislative session, the 86th legislative session, the 87th. They're back to their old shenanigans and trying to slip things past the goalie while we're not looking. While we had a great impact in House Bill 3 last time, it really provided a boost to our educators in regard to compensation. Our teachers really got to up to speed on some of their compensation packages. This legislative session looks like they protected the budget, so they protected everything from House Bill 3. And then this thing called ESSER came down. The Education, or Elementary Secondary Schools Education Recovery Act. 1.0, ESSER 1.0 was done about last October, or I'm sorry, about last April, as far as Congress and the President went. So you had a different Congress and a different President at that time. Those dollars were actually sent to the states. The states took those dollars and plugged the budget gaps that were occurring because of the shutdowns happening. A lot of my superintendent friends were upset that those things didn't get passed on all the way to schools. I was just glad we were able to keep our job and not furlough anybody. I was not asking for any additional money that we needed, other than just making sure that we got everybody through the fiscal 20 budget. And we did, and I was very grateful that the Congress and the executive branch in DC, and then the decision makers in Austin were able to plug that. Now, Texas and New York were the only states that used those ESSER funds to plug budget gaps of all places. The two diametrically different states in Texas and New York used the same strategy. 2.0 has yet to be negotiated because it has a lot of higher ed issues in it as far as maintenance of effort down the road. But 3.0, we're going to get 3.0 before we get 2.0. And if that doesn't tell you how things have changed in Washington, then I think that you should understand it. 2.0 should come before 3.0, but it didn't. It was written kind of as Trump was on the way out, as the Senate was still Republican-led. There's some language in there that's a little bit different. 3.0 was written once Biden took office, and then you had both chambers were actually Democrats. So basically 3.0 said that the states cannot use these federal dollars to plug any budget holes, and that they should be passed on to the school systems. We're scheduled to receive, I hate to take this number because it is just flat out gaudy, and we have 3 years to spend, which is a good thing, but it's to address COVID learning, the COVID learning slide that our students are supposed to have. It's about $40 million in Tyler, Texas, Tyler ISD. And I mean, we can start talking about how our kids are going to pay for this stuff as they're printing this stuff off, because I don't know how we're going to pay for it, but we're going to have it. We'll be good stewards with it, and we'll make sure it goes to the campuses that need it the most. That's my guarantee to y'all as we're negotiating with our school board about what happens there. We cannot use it to replace some of your tax dollars that we use to build these schools. Like, I'm sure y'all had some of these thoughts, because I have had some of these thoughts. We can't reduce our maintenance tax rate either. So this has to go to our kids over the next 3 years. And when I say has to, that's not a bad thing. But we would love to be creative for y'all as far as your tax dollars go, because these are tax dollars coming at us from some way, shape, or form. We've paid these tax dollars to the feds, but it's a lot of money. I don't know how many billions of dollars that we're talking about, but that's one thing that's coming out of the legislative session. Other interesting legislation that y'all probably need to keep your eye on is virtual education. Everybody thought that that was the wave of the future. Some of your more uber right, far right enthusiasts down there talking about, man, this brick and mortar stuff is too expensive. Talking about school buildings. And so they're thinking that this is a way around that. Yeah, probably. But you want to talk about transformational change of a battleship that's been moving in the ocean at 30 knots over the last 100 plus years. That's tough to do. And so there's going to be some virtual education bills that are going to get through and get passed. We're probably going to offer some virtual opportunities, because I described to you how we had about 200 students that are still on virtual learning, and we will be better at it. We actually got better from last spring. We're better than we were in the fall. As we keep doing this, we're going to continue to get better with it. The one thing that I would have done differently in the fall is to not have our classroom teachers also teaching their virtual courses. I did not want that to happen, but I got talked out of it by my principals because they were scared the state was going to slap some accountability ratings on us. They didn't want this separate group of teachers working on their kids virtually. So if I had to do it over again, I would have said, no, I don't care what you say. We're going to teach you virtually with this specific skilled set of teachers doing that. Okay, so it'd be a lot like you do in higher ed right now. It's sometimes difficult to teach that in-person lecture class and also manage your virtual stuff. Well, for a third grader or a fourth grader or a fifth grader that needs that sensitive, acute relationships and interactions, you're not going to get that when a teacher's trying to manage 19 kids in person and 3 kids virtually. Okay, a little bit different for the little guys. When you're in college, it's a little bit different because their frontal cortex is a little bit more developed. A little bit. So that's something that's going to. School ratings and accountability, without boring you about all that, we've done a good job here in Tyler, Texas. Since 2014, when I got here, we had 11 of our schools were identified as low performing. Most of those were north of Front Street. We've gone from 11 to 9 to 3 to 2 to 0 to 1. Over the years, we hadn't been rated in 2 years because of COVID. So we've really done a good job of eradicating those low performing labels in our schools. We have an 85 school system rating. I think if we would have completed last year, we would have been an A-rated school system, but it didn't happen, so I can't really claim that. But I think some of those things are going to come down to there's some shenanigans going on where they're doing look backs. And they're wanting to finagle the accountability system. And I think we'll be fine, but I just think that there's some shenanigans going on because there's some distaste towards Houston ISD. It is the largest school system in our state, but they're trying to design the accountability system all based upon what's going on in Houston ISD. And I don't think that applies to Tyler, Texas. I don't think it applies to Carthage, Texas. I don't think it applies to Paducah, Texas. I don't think it applies to Muleshoe, Texas. I keep going all over the state, even these small towns. We're going to design an accountability system because of Houston ISD's failure to provide adequate schooling for their kids. It's also expanding TPA authority. You know, I like the Texas Education Commissioner. He's my guy. I like Mike Rath. He's a smart guy. But there's some bills in Austin that are going through right now that do concern school systems. And once you get married to statute, once it gets codified, it gets hard to change. And they're talking about giving the Commissioner of Education almost a czarist absolute authority over all school systems without local school board oversight, for lack of a better term. And all based on if you had one school that was failing, he could take over your entire school system. I'd like to see that happen in Panola County, Texas, or Smith County, Texas, or somebody, or maybe Knox County, or maybe in Dickens County. If Guthrie ISD, with their 32 kids in school, were to be overtaken by the commissioner, I dare the state to go to Dickens County and try to do that. I just think that there's some bad things that are coming out of that. And then some charter school exemptions. Some of y'all might have some charter school students into your grandkids or children, but they are a public school. Your tax dollars actually do fund our charter schools. And while there is a need for charter schools, I also think there's a need for accountability and oversight of your tax dollars. And there is legislation right now that's coming out that would even further relinquish any of that accountability of your tax dollars and of the governance of those schools. So, in saying that, as I do with every time I present, I will take questions for how long, Mr. Mullen?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, good. John Hart.
I'm going to stand up and say this, and I'm going to be politically incorrect, but I commend 2 people and groups today. Number 1, I commend Diane Cavanaugh and the Rotary Club Board for being one of the first Rotary clubs in East Texas to be meeting in person and getting back to normal. And I commend Marty and the TISD School Board for getting the students back to school and taking care of things the way they should be taken care of.
Data and science, not emotions. And that's the way to make decisions there. I also want to point out before I get these other questions, thank you, Jennifer Hines, our Chief Communications Officer, for coming with us today. She's done a fabulous job of communicating stuff out to y'all during this crazy year. Y'all may recognize Jennifer. Remember, she's former anchor at KLTV in Stoker. So that have her. Who else?
Here, Brandon.
All right, I'll get you.
Okay. I have my former teacher voice and a mom voice. So I have a son who goes to Caldwell. We love love Caldwell. In fact, we just moved 3,500 miles back from Hawaii so that our kid could go to school. Hawaii schools are still shut down. So we are, I mean, we were there, you know, we moved back in 2019, we've had that, so I've done 3 Trans-Pacific moves in the last 5 years. So we just want to say thank you, and we love Caldwell. It's such an amazing school. So if you guys ever get a chance to check out anything that's mom over there.
Yeah, my next presentation, we'll give you a PowerPoint, because I'm sure our next presentation, we'll probably come around here and ask you maybe to start talking about Hubbard. Anyways, and then kind of what to do with Hog, but we'll have a presentation to go over some of the innovative and choice programs that we really have some cool stuff going on. We have the K-8 called the Arts Academy, and then we now have a new K-8 campus at Birdwell. Birdwell used to be an elementary school, just a straight running K-5 elementary school. It is an actual Spanish or dual language Spanish immersion magnet school that goes all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade. I tell you what, when I moved here, if we'd have had these things in place with my 11-year-old, who's now just a basketball dribbling demon and volleyball playing demon, she's going to go to 3 Lakes next year, she would have had a hard time. I'd have had a hard time deciding whether I'm going to put her in the dual language academy or the arts academy, because they are fabulous schools. Art, and I'll get the claw.
Just I know this is kind of boots on the ground question, but here at Legacy, right on the loop, all of those vertical posts up in the air, is that for tennis courts?
Yes, there are tennis courts right there, and they're going to have by the time it's all over, with a pretty tall net there, 25 feet high.
Wow.
You shouldn't be able to. We've got skilled kids. I think we're all thinking we've got beginner tennis players that we're going to be teaching tennis to. But they're going to.
That's what that's all about.
Yeah, there's some of that, and then there's soccer over there as well. So there won't be balls flying on loop like nearly like y'all all think that they do. Or some of the Facebook Freddies and Facebook Fridas like I talk about. So, a good question though. I'm still working. Claude, and then I'm coming back up.
Marty, you just say this is an amazing information field presentation, so thank you for going through all this. It's pretty phenomenal. I want to ask you, what percentage of students now pursue post-secondary education? And since you've been at the school, what has been the trend in the last with COVID had an impact?
Yeah, we give you 2 pieces of data. One, our AP, dual credit, and IB performance. We don't have IB anymore, but those are always lumped in together. We outperform in 17 of 26 AP exams. We outperform the state. And that includes our private peers, our public peers, and our charter peers. So our college-going culture is really high. We do have a lot of kids that are going to TJC, participating in the Tyler Promise program. My son, being one of them, just finished his associate's degree in 1 year, and will be going to Baylor next year because of the TJC Promise program. I got 2 years knocked out of the way. I'm going to spend 4 at Baylor. Thank you. So thank you, Tyler. But as far as that goes, our goal is that 60% of our Smith County population will have some type of post-secondary credential, whether it be college going or career technical credentialing by the year 2030. Right now, Tyler ISD, as far as our graduate kids, is about 45%, as far as them going to some type of post-secondary experience. It's not where we'd like it to be, but it is better that we've increased by about 10 or 15% over the last 7 years. So what's going to happen is now that we've got the Tyler Promise endowment coming in, it's really going to make an impact. We're going from having 300 kids of that first cohort that included my son to this year's freshman cohort. There's 1,000 students of about our 2,000 graduates, no, less than 2,000 graduates that have committed to the TJC Promise. So that's 1,000. And then you're going to start adding in the actual ones that are already going to go to 4-year anyway for their college. So we're thinking that right away that this cohort is probably going to be about 60% of our kids are going to be going to some type of post-secondary experience in regard to university. Then add on top of that, probably another 15 or 20% that are going to do something like TSTC or some other type of trade credential that's going to go on. So if it hits right, we're looking at maybe 70% of our kids within the next 5 years being college or post-secondary bound with some type of credentialing, not even in the workforce. That's a heck of a rate. We'd love 100%, But if you look at the trends, you know how many kiddos that we have, about 75% economic disadvantage. That's going to be a phenomenal story here in the next 5 years.
All right,
Yes,
one
sir.
last question, so.
Any thoughts of being able to use some of that $40 million to enhance summer school the next 3 years
Okay.
to bridge the gap that was
No doubt.
created by
Yeah. So there's very specific things that are in those ESSER funds that I described that you can use them for and they're encouraged to use them for. And you're supposed to use research-based opportunities and additional curricular time is that. So you're talking about extended time on campuses that really need it, and for the kids that really need it, which could be actually during the school day, it could be after school, or it could be in the summer. So yes, sir, absolutely, those things will be expanded.
Jim Eccles.
baseball fields in Vegas. Where are they going to be?
So if you look, you got the tennis courts here. This is something I will tell the Facebook friends and the Facebook freebies. The architects originally put those baseball fields and softball fields butted up next to the loop. So the tennis courts are buffered there. So there's about 50 feet of difference between the loop, maybe 100 feet difference between the loop and the left field line of the baseball field. If we have somebody hitting the ball on the loop from where the baseball fields are going to be, they can buy us a dome to put over because they're good. So the softball and the baseball fields are tucked back towards the campus more to where you're not going to be messing with softballs and baseballs on the loop. But they will be lit for the first time in I think 30 or 40 years. We'll actually have lighted fields on campus, which we need severely, especially for our girls. I've got 2 daughters that are already more athletic minded, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I can't believe we didn't have a Title IX lawsuit brought against us for the way we've treated girls athletics in Colorado State. So thank you for what you've done for us and us being able to correct some of those long-term issues for our girl athletes and our boy athletes too. But good question. And yes, we're gonna keep the baseballs and softballs off the loop. Is that it?
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm telling you, if that kid can do that, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to resign as superintendent, and I'm going to be his agent. And then I'm going to be his agent, and Claude Henry's going to run the finance part of things. All right, here you go.
Will you draw one of these?
Oh, no, I've got to draw.
Yeah, and read the last 4 numbers.
First of all, thank y'all for having me today. We certainly have. My dad is a former Rotarian, and I'd love to come in with him to actually come to his Rotary meetings. We were in Polk, Panola County, see good East Texas people. And when he moved to the Metroplex, I enjoyed that too. I was a teenager by then. Didn't think it was cool. But I love seeing y'all. Thank y'all for your support here. And I missed some of the singing before I got sure y'all did sing anything.
National anthem.
Okay, you know, the fight song, Rotarian fight song. ROTA.
No.
Y'all know that?
He taught me something.
You know that?
I did not.
Yeah, it's like some Mickey Mouse clubs. Anyway, okay. Last 4 numbers.
Yes, please.
5752.
5752.
No. No. Rig.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford.
You better, y'all better check his ticket.
No.
You better check his ticket to make sure it really is.
Thank you for coming out and speaking. And you know, we have a great Rotary Club if you ever want to get back into the Rotary.
Look, I get asked that a lot. But just know I've got to tell a lot of people no if I go with one. So I'll keep you as a guest, and if you never need me to come speak to you or just come have lunch with you, I'm always open. Thank you so much.
Mayor approved the Jack of Hearts. So now we're down to looks like about 20 cards, and there's over $800 in the pot.
All right. Okay, so a couple real quick announcements because we're running out of time. If you're interested in making a donation, Beth has the Square device for the South Dakota Rotary Foundation for Spaghetti Supper Save Her. Don't forget that we're going to have a quick foundation meeting afterwards, just 5 minutes, those people that we announced earlier. I meant to remind everybody of this, but we are accepting nominations for our service awards, outstanding educator, first responder, community caregiver, and community service, or community volunteer. Those nominations are being accepted. Please get those in. so that we can recognize them on the 28th of June. Any other announcements to come before the floor? So we are going to conclude with our 4-way test. I'm going to ask our mom to lead us in that, and I'm going to be really corny and say, may the 4th be with you all.
All right, four-way test of things you think, say, or do. First,
Is it true?
second,
Is very all concerned.
third,
Will we don't have that.
fourth,
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Yeah.